Hi, I'm Sarah Miller, a 30-year-old from Seattle, Washington, and my life turned upside down the day my grandmother's will was read. Picture this. I'm standing in a sterile lawyer's office, heart pounding, when I learn I've inherited her entire $3 million estate. Her bakery empire, her savings, everything. $3 million. It was a fortune I never expected, a legacy built from her flower-dusted hands. But before I could even process it, my mother, Deborah, spun toward me, her eyes like daggers, and hissed, "That money's for the family, Sarah. You're signing it over to me, today." My stomach dropped. I said no, and that's when the world I knew caught fire. I'm not talking about a simple family spat. This was betrayal on a level that still haunts me. My mother, the woman who raised me, didn't just want my inheritance, she demanded it, like it was her birthright. When I refused, her fake tears turned to venom. She rallied my siblings, Emily and Lucas, against me, whispering lies about how I'd stolen Grandma Evelyn's love. Then came the text that chilled me to the bone. Family reunion at the lakeside cabin, 3 p.m. Be there. I walked into that cabin, my childhood sanctuary by Lake Washington, expecting a tense talk. Instead, I froze. My mother, siblings, and two strangers in slick suits stared me down like I was prey. "Sarah," Deborah said, her smile colder than the lake outside, "meet our mediators. Let's fix this mistake." My heart raced. This wasn't a reunion. It was a trap, and I was cornered. If you've ever faced family turning against you, you'll get why I'm sharing this. Drop a comment below with where you're from or your own family drama story. It means the world to connect. Hit that like button and subscribe to see how I fought my way out of this ambush. Trust me, you won't believe what happened next. That moment in the cabin, staring into my mother's cold eyes, felt like my entire world was unraveling. I'm Sarah Miller, and if you're still with me, you're probably wondering how I didn't just crumble right there. Trust me, I wanted to run. Out the door, past Lake Washington, and never look back. But something inside me, maybe my Grandma Evelyn's voice whispering, "Stand tall, Sarah," kept my feet planted. That's when I knew this wasn't just about money. It was about who I was, who I'd choose to be when my own family turned against me. Have you ever had to face that kind of betrayal? The kind that makes your chest ache but lights a fire in your soul at the same time? Drop a comment below and tell me your story. Maybe it's a family fight over money or a time you had to stand your ground. Sharing it helps, believe me, and I read every single one. This fight didn't end in that cabin, though. Oh no, it got messier. Way messier. My mother, Deborah, had plans I never saw coming, and my siblings, Emily and Lucas, were caught in her web. Every step I took felt like dodging a landmine, but I found something stronger than their lies. The truth Grandma Evelyn left behind. If you're hooked on this roller coaster, hit that like button. It's a small way to say you're rooting for me. And please subscribe and tap the bell so you don't miss what's next. I'm about to take you into the heart of the ambush, where secrets exploded and someone I never expected switched sides. Stick with me, you won't believe how this unfolds. I'm Sarah Miller, and if you're still here after that cabin ambush bombshell, you're probably wondering how I ended up in this mess. To understand why my mother, Deborah, turned my family against me over Grandma Evelyn's $3 million fortune, you need to know the woman who started it all, my grandmother, Evelyn Harper. She wasn't just family, she was my hero, my North Star, the one person who saw me when no one else did. But her legacy, built from a single Seattle bakery to a Pacific Northwest empire, came with shadows. Shadows cast by my mother's greed and a family fractured long before that will was read. Let me take you back to where it began, to the flower-dusted summers that shaped me and the secrets that set this war in motion. Growing up in Seattle, I didn't have posters of pop stars on my walls. Instead, I had a faded photo of Grandma Evelyn standing outside her first shop, Evelyn's Bakes, on Pike Street, her apron smudged with dough, her smile brighter than the neon sign above her. She'd started with nothing, just a recipe for cinnamon rolls scribbled in her mother's notebook and a $500 loan from a skeptical bank in 1965. By the time I was born, that one shop had grown into a chain across Washington, Oregon, and Idaho, each location serving her legendary pastries to lines out the door. Evelyn didn't just bake, she built a legacy, brick by brick, with grit and heart. To me, she was proof that dreams could rise like dough if you worked hard enough. My earliest memories are of summers spent at her flagship bakery, the air thick with the scent of vanilla and yeast. I was 8, perched on a stool, watching her knead dough with hands that never shook, even when she was tired. "Sarah," she'd say, her voice warm but firm, "nothing worth having comes easy. You mix, you wait, you bake. Life's the same." I'd nod, soaking up every word, my small hands mimicking her movements. Those summers weren't just playtime, they were my first business lessons. She'd let me tally receipts, count inventory, even charm customers with my gap-toothed grin. "You've got a head for this, kiddo," she told me once, ruffling my hair. "You notice what others miss." That praise lit me up, made me feel like I could be more than the shy kid who faded into the background at home. Home, though, was a different story. My mother, Deborah, was Evelyn's only child, but they couldn't have been more different. Where Evelyn saved every penny, Deborah spent like money grew on trees. I was 10 when I first noticed the bags piling up in our living room. Gucci, Prada, names I didn't understand but knew cost more than our rent. She'd breeze in from shopping sprees, her laugh too loud, while my stepfather, Greg, trailed behind carrying boxes like a pack mule. Later, I'd hear them arguing in hushed tones about credit card bills, missed mortgage payments, and needing to ask Mom for help. By the time I was 12, our house had been remortgaged twice, and Deborah's closet overflowed while our fridge stayed half empty. I'd lie awake wondering why Mom couldn't see what Evelyn saw, that money was a tool, not a toy. Evelyn noticed too. She'd shake her head when Deborah called, begging for another loan to cover some vague emergency, a car repair or a medical bill, always something. "Your mother thinks money fixes everything," Evelyn told me one afternoon as we sorted flour sacks in the bakery storeroom. I was 13, old enough to sense the sadness in her voice. "But it's responsibility, Sarah. It's security, not status." That day, she handed me a ledger and taught me to balance the bakery's books. It was tedious, columns of numbers, receipts to cross-check, but I loved it. I loved earning her proud smile when I caught a supplier's overcharge. Those moments felt like a secret language between us, one Deborah never learned. But that secret came with a cost. Deborah resented how close I was to Evelyn. "You're always at that damn bakery," she'd snap, her eyes narrowing when I'd come home smelling of cinnamon. "What, you think you're better than us?" I'd shrink under her gaze, my siblings, Emily and Lucas, watching silently from the couch. Emily, 2 years older, would mimic Deborah's tone, calling me Grandma's pet behind my back. Lucas, 3 years younger, just looked confused, caught between loyalty to Mom and the cookies I'd sneak him from the bakery. I didn't know then that Deborah's jealousy was a ticking bomb, one that exploded years later over Evelyn's will. The first real crack came when I was 16, applying to colleges. I dreamed of studying business administration at the University of Washington, following Evelyn's path. She'd promised to cover my tuition, her eyes sparkling as we pored over brochures together. "Education's the one thing nobody can take from you," she said, squeezing my hand. But Deborah had other plans. She cornered Evelyn during a family dinner, her voice dripping with fake concern. "Mom, we're drowning. Emily's braces, Lucas's soccer camp, the roof's leaking. Help us, please." Evelyn, ever soft-hearted, wrote a check. I found out later it was my college fund. $40,000. Gone. Deborah spent it on a kitchen remodel and a trip to Maui. When I confronted her, tears burning my eyes, she shrugged. "Family comes first, Sarah. You're smart. You'll figure it out." I did. I took out student loans, worked nights at a coffee shop, and swore I'd never let Deborah's recklessness define me. Evelyn was furious when she found out, her face pale as she apologized. "I should have protected that money," she whispered, slipping me $200 in an envelope. Don't tell your mother. This is ours. Those envelopes became our ritual, small acts of rebellion against Deborah's greed. Each one felt like Evelyn saying, I trust you, Sarah. But it also tightened the knot of guilt in my chest. Was I betraying my mom by keeping these secrets? The question gnawed at me, but Evelyn's faith kept me grounded. As I grew older, Evelyn's lessons went beyond numbers. She taught me how to negotiate with suppliers, her voice steady as she haggled over flour prices. Respect, but don't budge, she'd say, winking. She showed me how to treat employees, knowing their kids' names, giving bonuses during tough years. Your business is only as strong as the people who run it, she'd remind me, her hands on her hips. By 18, I was helping manage her flagship store's weekend shifts, my confidence growing with every decision. Customers loved me, employees trusted me, and Evelyn's proud nods were my reward. But at home, Deborah's resentment festered. You think you're some hot shot now? She'd snare when I mentioned the bakery. That's my mother's business, not yours. Her words stung, but I pushed them down, clinging to Evelyn's belief in me. The real storm hit when Evelyn got sick. I was 27, just starting a marketing job, when she was diagnosed with lung cancer. I'd visit her at Virginia Mason Hospital, sitting by her bed as she gripped my hand with fading strength. Sarah, she said one evening, her voice hoarse but fierce, I've watched you handle money, handle life. You're the only one who gets it, what I built, what it means. I tried to brush it off, hating the finality in her tone. You're gonna be fine, Grandma, but she shook her head. Listen to me. When I'm gone, there'll be pressure. Deborah, she's not who you think. Stand your ground. Her words landed like a weight. I didn't fully understand then, but they planted a seed of resolve. During those hospital visits, Evelyn shared stories I'd never heard about Deborah's teenage years, how she'd forged checks, pawned Evelyn's jewelry, even drained a savings account meant for her own wedding. I failed her, Evelyn confessed, tears in her eyes. Gave her too much, or maybe not enough love. But then she looked at me, her gaze clear. You, Sarah, you're my second chance. You turned out right. I held her hand, my throat tight, promising to honor whatever she'd planned. A week later, she slipped into a coma. 3 days after that, surrounded by family, Evelyn Harper took her final breath. I felt her loss like a piece of my soul breaking away. But even in death, Evelyn had one more surprise. A month before she passed, she'd given me a small key tucked in an envelope with a note, for when the time comes. I kept it hidden, not knowing what it unlocked, but feeling its weight like a promise. That key and the bond we'd built over years of flour and ledgers would become my lifeline when Deborah's betrayal erupted. It was Evelyn's way of saying, you're ready. But as I'd soon learn, being ready didn't make the fight any easier. The rain hadn't stopped since the funeral, and neither had my mother. After we buried Grandma Evelyn, I thought grief would pull us closer, but Deborah had other plans. Plans to claim Evelyn's legacy, the bakery empire she'd built from a single Seattle shop. Those weeks after the funeral were a relentless grind, each day bringing a fresh wave of guilt and pressure from her mother. The key Evelyn gave me, tucked in an envelope with that cryptic note for when the time comes, burned a hole in my pocket. I didn't know what it opened, but it felt like a lifeline or a curse. Deborah's scheming tightened the knot around my chest, pushing me toward a truth I wasn't ready for. Let me take you through it, to the moments that turned my sorrow into a fight and the secret Evelyn left to arm me against her own daughter. It started at the funeral reception in a packed community center near Lake Washington where mourners traded stories about Evelyn's legendary pastries. I was clutching a styrofoam cup, my eyes raw, when Deborah pulled me aside, her nails biting into my arm. We need to sort out your grandmother's affairs, she said, her voice low, like she was offering a deal. This is too much for you to handle alone. Let me take the lead. Her eyes were dry, calculating, not a trace of the tears she'd faked at the graveside. My gut twisted. The will hasn't been read yet, I said, keeping my voice even. Let's wait. She leaned closer, her smile sharp. Waiting's a mistake. This is about family. The word family felt like a weapon, and I slipped away, her gaze boring into me. That was the first knot. Guilt, sharp and cold, whispering I was betraying her. That night, in my Capitol Hill apartment, sleep wouldn't come. I sat on my bed, turning Evelyn's key over in my hands, its edges glinting in the moonlight. What was it for? A safe? A chest? Evelyn's note didn't say, but her hospital warning, "Deborah's not who you think," echoed like a siren. I wanted to ignore it, to believe Deborah's push was just her way of coping, but the key felt too deliberate, too heavy for that. The next morning, I called Evelyn's bank, my voice shaky as I asked about safety deposit boxes. The clerk confirmed one existed in Evelyn's name and mine, accessible only with the key. I exhaled, a flicker of hope loosening the knot. Evelyn had left me something, concrete, a piece of her plan. But hope didn't last long. Deborah's next move hit like a sucker punch. My phone lit up with a text from my sister, Emily. "Mom says you're trying to hog Grandma's legacy. Really, Sarah?" My heart sank. I typed back, "That's not true, Em. I don't even know what's in the will." Her reply was ice. "Whatever, you were always her favorite." The words stung, like losing the sister I'd shared late-night secrets with. I tried calling my brother Lucas, but he didn't answer. Instead, I got a voicemail from my stepfather, Greg. His tone clipped. "Stop upsetting your mom, Sarah. She's falling apart because of you." I stared at my phone, the knot of betrayal tightening. My family was closing ranks, and I was the outsider. It didn't stop there. Deborah started calling my job, leaving voicemails for my boss, Karen, about urgent family matters. After the fourth call, Karen called me into her office, her brow furrowed. "Is everything okay at home? Your mom's been persistent." My face burned. "It's complicated," I said, forcing a smile. "I'll deal with it." But inside, I was furious. Deborah was invading my work, my safe space, twisting the narrative to make me the villain. I blocked her number, but she pivoted to emails, each one a dagger of guilt. "I gave you everything, Sarah. How can you turn your back on us?" I deleted them, but they left scars, making me wonder if I was selfish for holding on to Evelyn's trust. The knot of self-doubt was choking me. Then came the first crack in the darkness. I couldn't wait any longer. I had to know what the key unlocked. I drove to the bank, my pulse racing, the key clutched in my fist. The safety deposit box was small, unassuming, but when I opened it, my breath caught. Inside was a worn leather notebook, a bundle of letters, and a USB drive labeled Sarah. No gold, no cash, just Evelyn's handwriting, steady and familiar. I shoved everything into my bag, my hands shaking, and sped home to unravel it. The notebook was a ledger of Deborah's loans: $40,000 for a designer wardrobe, $25,000 for a Cancun vacation, $15,000 for car repairs that bought a new watch for Greg. Evelyn had tracked every cent, every broken promise. The letters were raw, Evelyn's confessions of guilt for spoiling Deborah and her fear that her daughter would ruin the bakery's legacy. "Sarah," one letter ended, "you're my only hope to keep it alive." The USB drive was a gut punch. I plugged it into my laptop, my fingers trembling, and Evelyn's face filled the screen. She was in her hospital bed, oxygen tubes in her nose, but her eyes blazed. "Sarah," she said, "if you're watching, I'm gone. And Deborah's coming for the bakery, the recipes, everything. I left it all to you because you get it. Legacy isn't for spending, it's for building. There's a patented recipe collection in that box, worth more than you know. Protect it. Deborah will lie, manipulate, but you're stronger than her. I froze the video, tears spilling over. Evelyn had known, had prepared me. The knot of fear eased. I had proof, a weapon. But the recipe collection? That was new, a secret bigger than I'd imagined. Deborah's next strike came out of nowhere. My phone rang, a reporter from a local news site. "We're doing a piece on your grandmother's estate. Your mother says you pressured Evelyn into cutting her out. Care to comment?" My blood ran cold. "That's a lie," I said, my voice barely steady, and hung up. The article dropped online hours later, a vicious headline accusing me of exploiting a dying woman. Strangers commented, calling me a snake, a gold digger. I locked my doors, my heart pounding, feeling like Seattle itself had turned on me. The knot of shame was crushing. How could my own mother weaponize my name like this? I was spiraling when Michael found me, staring at the article, my eyes swollen. He knelt beside me, his voice firm. "This is her trying to win, Sarah. Evelyn gave you that key for a fight like this. Don't let her win." His words snapped me back. The notebook, the video, the letters, they were my armor. But then I found something else. A note taped to my mailbox, unsigned, but in Greg's scrawl. "Give up the estate or it gets worse." My breath hitched. This wasn't just words anymore. It was a threat, real and close. The knot of danger tightened, but so did my grip on the key. Evelyn's voice rang in my head. "Stand your ground." I knew I couldn't do this alone. I called Michael, my voice shaking, as I showed him the note. "We need a lawyer," he said, his jaw tight. I reached out to Claire Thompson, a friend of his who handled estate fights. As I gathered the notebook and USB for our meeting, my phone buzzed with the final text from Deborah. "You can't run from us, Sarah. This is ours." The chill down my spine was real, but it sparked something fiercer. Evelyn had trusted me to protect her legacy, and I wasn't folding. Whatever Deborah had planned, I face it. But the note's warning lingered like a shadow. The storm Deborah had been brewing was about to break. Her lies, that vicious article, the note slipped under my door, they were all leading to this moment. The day Grandma Evelyn's will was read. I'd found her safety deposit box, her video calling me the keeper of her bakery legacy, her notebook exposing my mother's greed, but nothing could have braced me for what happened in that lawyer's office. It wasn't just a will reading, it was a declaration of war, one that turned my family into strangers and unveiled a secret so explosive it rewrote everything. Every second in that room twisted the knife, and what I found afterward, it was Evelyn's final move in a game I was only starting to understand. Let me take you there, to the day the ground shifted and I saw the real fight ahead. It was a drizzly Monday morning in Seattle, the kind that makes you want to stay under the covers. I drove downtown, my knuckles white on the wheel, Evelyn's key and USB drive hidden in my purse like contraband. I hadn't told Michael or anyone about the box's contents, too afraid to jinx whatever Evelyn had planned. The lawyer's office was all sleek glass and mahogany, high above Puget Sound, but it felt like a cage as I stepped inside. My family was already there. Deborah in a tailored black dress, her face a mask of calm. Emily scrolling her phone, her jaw tight. Lucas slouched, avoiding my eyes, and Greg looming like a bouncer, his stare cold. The air was heavy, like we were all holding our breath. I sat across from them, alone, my pulse thudding in my ears. This was it, the moment Evelyn's truth would come out. Mr. Callahan, the lawyer, started reading, his voice steady, as he listed minor gifts, a donation to Evelyn's favorite shelter, her old recipe book to her head baker. I nodded, picturing her kind heart. Then he stopped, cleared his throat, and the room froze. To my granddaughter, Sarah Elizabeth Miller, I leave the entirety of my estate, including Evelyn's bakes, all properties, accounts, and personal effects, unless otherwise noted. The words slammed into me. The bakery chain, her lake house, everything. Mine. I couldn't breathe, my mind spinning as the magnitude sank in. Evelyn had handed me her life's work, her legacy, me, not Deborah, not anyone else. Deborah shattered the silence, her voice a blade. "That's impossible," she snapped, slamming her palm on the table. "Read it again." Emily's phone hit the floor with a clatter, her eyes wide. Lucas muttered, "No way," while Greg leaned forward, his face dark. "Evelyn wouldn't do this," he growled. I sat there, my hands trembling, too stunned to speak. I knew Evelyn trusted me, but this? This was a crown I wasn't ready to wear. Callahan raised a hand, his tone firm. "Mrs. Turner, the will was updated 10 months ago, with witnesses. Evelyn was of sound mind." Deborah's gaze swung to me, her eyes blazing. "You did this," she hissed. "You twisted her, didn't you?" The words hit like a punch. "I didn't know," I said, my voice cracking. "I swear, Mom." Emily jumped in, her voice sharp. "Grandma wouldn't ditch us. You were always at the bakery, sucking up to her." Lucas's eyes narrowed. "Did you ask for this, Sarah?" I shook my head, tears burning. "No, I didn't." But their glares were a wall, shutting me out. The knot of betrayal tightened. I was the enemy now, alone against my own blood. Callahan's voice cut through. "There's a letter from Evelyn to be read aloud." My heart leapt. Evelyn's words, even now, were my anchor. He unfolded the paper, and her voice seemed to fill the room. "My family, this choice wasn't easy, but it's certain. Sarah has the heart and discipline to carry my bakery forward. Deborah, I gave you chances, but you chose differently. Emily, Lucas, I love you, but your mother's shadow looms large. Trust Sarah. She's my legacy's keeper." The letter landed like a gavel, final and unyielding. Deborah's face went pale, then flushed. She was on drugs. Sick, manipulated. This proves Sarah played her. I wanted to yell back, to defend Evelyn's sharp mind, but doubt crept in. Had I pushed her, even unknowingly? The knot of guilt was suffocating. The room erupted. Deborah stormed out, vowing to fight this travesty. Emily followed, shooting me a look that could have burned through steel. Lucas hesitated, his eyes conflicted, then left. Greg stayed, his voice low. "You're making a big mistake, Sarah." I mumbled a thank you to Callahan and fled to my car, Evelyn's letter echoing, "Trust Sarah." But my family's hatred clung to me like damp clothes. The knot of fear was overwhelming. Why me? What had Evelyn seen that I didn't? Back in my apartment, I locked the door and dumped the safety deposit box's contents on my table, my hands shaking. I'd been too scared to look closely before, with Deborah's threats closing in. The notebook and letters were damning, but I needed more. I replayed Evelyn's video, her voice steady. "Protect the recipes." Then I saw it. An envelope I'd overlooked, wedged under the USB drive, sealed with Evelyn's initials. My fingers fumbled as I tore it open. Inside was a single page, her handwriting neat but urgent. "Sarah, the estate is yours, but the real treasure is my patented recipe collection, stored in a second safety deposit box at First Interstate Bank. Key enclosed. These recipes, every unique blend, are registered, worth a fortune in licensing. Guard them. Deborah will come for them." A small brass key slipped out, landing with a soft clink. I stared at it, my breath shallow. Evelyn's recipes weren't just food. They were a global brand waiting to happen, a multi-million-dollar secret. Deborah's desperation made sense now. She must have heard whispers of this gold mine. The knot of shock loosened, replaced by a spark of determination. Evelyn hadn't just left me a business, she'd given me a legacy to fight for. But the stakes were higher than ever. That article, Greg's note, Emily's venom, they'd go nuclear if they knew about the recipes. I tucked the key into my wallet, my resolve hardening. Evelyn had trusted me to stand tall, but Greg's words, "it gets worse," rang in my ears. The knot of danger tightened again. The will had lit the fuse, but this recipe collection was the real bomb, and I was holding it alone. The will reading left me reeling. Evelyn's legacy, her bakery empire, and that secret recipe collection, now mine to protect. But my mother, Deborah, wasn't just angry, she was out for blood. Her campaign to break me didn't stop at words or that stinging article. It grew darker, more vicious, each move designed to make me crack. My siblings, Emily and Lucas, were her soldiers, and the threats were no longer just whispers. Every day tightened the screws, pushing me to the edge of fear and fury. Yet in the chaos, I found glimmers of strength, sparks of Evelyn's faith in me. Let me take you through those weeks, when my family's betrayal turned ruthless, and I learned just how far they'd go to claim what wasn't theirs. It started the day after the will reading. I was at my Capitol Hill apartment, still shaken, the new key to Evelyn's recipe box hidden in a sock drawer. My phone buzzed with the group text from Deborah to me, Emily, and Lucas. "Sarah, this isn't over. We're a family, and families share." The word share felt like a knife. I didn't reply, but Emily did, her words sharp. "Stop being greedy, Sarah. Grandma didn't mean this." Lucas added, "Just do the right thing." My chest ached. These were my siblings, the ones I'd stayed up with watching movies, now turning on me like I'd stolen their future. I typed, "I'm honoring Grandma's wishes," but deleted it. What was the point? The knot of isolation was suffocating. They'd already chosen sides. Then Deborah upped the ante. I got a call from my boss, Karen, her voice tense. "Sarah, your mom has been emailing the office saying you're dodging family responsibilities. Clients are asking questions." My stomach dropped. Deborah was poisoning my work, my reputation. "It's a misunderstanding," I said, my face hot. "I'll fix it." But how? I blocked her email, but the damage was done. A client canceled a project, citing personal drama. I sat at my desk, staring at my computer, the knot of humiliation burning. Deborah wasn't just fighting for the bakery, she was trying to ruin me. The next blow came from Emily. I woke up to an email from one of Evelyn's suppliers, confused about a canceled order I'd supposedly sent. I hadn't sent anything. My heart raced as I logged into the bakery's account. Someone had accessed it, sending fake emails to disrupt deliveries. The IP address traced to a coffee shop near Emily's apartment. She'd hacked me, or at least tried to. I called her, my voice shaking. "Em, why? This hurts Grandma's business." She laughed, cold and bitter. "Mom's right. You're a thief." The line went dead. I fixed the orders, but 2 suppliers pulled out, rattled by the chaos. The knot of betrayal tightened. Emily wasn't just angry. She was sabotaging Evelyn's legacy. I tried to focus, to protect the bakery, but Deborah's campaign kept coming. My social media was flooded with vague posts from her and her friends. Things like, "Some kids betray their own blood for money." Strangers commented, piling on with insults. I deleted my accounts, but screenshots spread to local Seattle forums, branding me a greedy granddaughter. I stopped going to my usual coffee shop, afraid of the stares. One night, I found a flyer taped to my building's door. "Justice for Evelyn's real family." No name, but Deborah's handwriting was unmistakable. My hand shook as I tore it down, the knot of fear creeping in. This wasn't just online. It was at my doorstep. Then Lucas crossed a line I didn't see coming. It was past midnight, rain hammering my windows when my buzzer rang. I checked the camera. Lucas, soaked, his hoodie pulled low. Against my better judgment, I let him in, hoping he wanted to talk. He stood in my living room, dripping, his eyes hard. "Sign over the bakery, Sarah," he said, his voice low, "or things get bad." My breath caught. "What does that mean, Lucas?" He stepped closer, his fists clenched. "Mom's not playing. Neither am I." I backed up, my heart pounding. "Get out," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. He left, but his words lingered like a threat. The knot of danger was real now, a cold weight in my chest. I barely slept after that, jumping at every creak. Michael noticed, his face creased with worry when he came over the next day. "You're not okay," he said, pulling me close. I broke down, spilling everything. Emily's hack, Lucas's visit, the flyers. "They're trying to scare me into giving up," I sobbed. Michael's jaw tightened. "They're bullying you, Sarah. Evelyn left you that key for a reason. Fight back." His words were a spark, loosening the knot of despair. I nodded, wiping my eyes. I had Evelyn's video, her notebook, the recipe key. I wasn't helpless. Not yet. The next day, I met Claire Thompson, the lawyer Michael recommended. In her small office, I showed her the notebook and played Evelyn's video. Claire's eyes narrowed as she took notes. "This is gold, Sarah. Deborah's history of financial abuse strengthens your case, but we need to document these threats." I hesitated, then showed her Lucas's text from that morning. "You're running out of time." Her face hardened. "This is harassment, Sarah. Install a security camera. Save everything." I left her office, a plan forming, the knot of fear easing slightly. Claire was my shield, Evelyn's evidence my sword. But Deborah's next move was a gut punch. I got a call from a local TV station. "We're airing a segment on your grandmother's estate," the producer said. "Your mother claims you coerced Evelyn into changing her will. We'd love your side." My blood ran cold. Deborah had escalated from print to TV, her lies now primetime news. I declined, my voice shaking, but the segment aired that night. Deborah, teary-eyed, called me a scheming child who'd stolen her mother's love. Clips of Evelyn's bakery played, twisted to make me the villain. My phone buzzed with hate messages from strangers. I unplugged it, curling up on my couch, the knot of shame crushing me. Seattle felt like a trap, every corner whispering my failure. I was ready to give up when I found a voicemail from Margaret, Evelyn's old friend, buried in the noise. "Sarah, I heard about the news. Evelyn told me things you need to know. Call me." My heart leapt. Margaret's voice was a lifeline, a reminder of Evelyn's trust. I called her back, my hands trembling. "Evelyn knew Deborah would fight dirty," Margaret said. "She left you more than money. She left you proof. Check the recipe box again." The knot of hopelessness loosened. I raced to my drawer, pulling out the safety deposit box contents. Tucked inside the notebook was a folded receipt I'd missed. A bank statement showing Deborah's last loan from Evelyn, $50,000, cashed the day before her diagnosis. It was another piece of the puzzle, proof of Deborah's greed. That night, I installed a security camera, my resolve hardening. Deborah's campaign was ruthless, but I wasn't alone. Michael's support, Claire's strategy, Margaret's clue, they were my anchors. As I saved Lucas's text and the TV clip, my phone buzzed with one last message from Deborah. "You'll lose everything, Sarah. Last chance." The knot of danger tightened, but I wasn't running. Evelyn had seen this coming, had armed me for it. Whatever Deborah planned next, I'd face it. But the fear lingered like a shadow, whispering what everything might mean. Deborah's war was closing in. Her TV lies, Emily's sabotage, Lucas's threat at my door. Those flyers branding me a traitor. I was crumbling. Evelyn's key and recipe box secrets my only anchors in a sea of fear. The bakery legacy was mine to protect, but I was one step from giving up, ready to let Deborah win just to escape the pain. Then came a spark, a moment that flipped the script. I found an ally who held a truth so powerful it turned me from a cornered victim to a fighter ready to face her. Those days were a whirlwind of doubt and defiance, each one pulling me back from the brink. Let me take you through it, to the turning point that gave me the strength to fight back. I was holed up in my Capitol Hill apartment, Evelyn's notebook and USB drive scattered on the coffee table, my eyes swollen from crying. That TV segment replayed in my head, Deborah's crocodile tears calling me a thief to the whole city. My security camera showed nothing new, but I checked it obsessively, haunted by Lucas's late night visit. I hadn't left home in days, too scared of Seattle's judging eyes. The knot of despair was suffocating. Was this what Evelyn meant by standing my ground? Me? Hiding? Losing everything she trusted me with? Michael snapped me out of it. He let himself in, his face tight with worry, and sat beside me on the couch. "Sarah, you're stronger than this," he said, his voice steady. "Deborah's trying to break you, but Evelyn chose you for a reason." I shook my head, my voice cracking. "I can't, Michael. They're too much." He grabbed my hands, his eyes fierce. "That key, that video, Evelyn knew you'd need them. You're not fighting alone." His words cut through the fog, loosening the knot of defeat. I pulled out the USB drive, my fingers trembling. "She said to protect the recipes, but I don't know where to start." Michael's jaw set. Who else knew Evelyn's plans? Someone out there can help. His question lit a fuse. I remembered Margaret, Evelyn's best friend, whose voicemail I'd ignored in the chaos. Too afraid to hope, I'd buried it, but Michael's push gave me courage. I dialed her number, my heart pounding. Margaret answered, her voice warm but urgent. "Sarah, I've been praying you'd call. That news segment was vile. Evelyn warned me this might happen." My breath hitched. "What did she tell you?" Margaret's tone softened. "Come to the Pike Street Bakery tomorrow. I've got something you need." The knot of fear tightened. What could it be? But a flicker of hope sparked. Margaret was Evelyn's confidant. She might hold the key to fighting back. I didn't sleep, my mind racing with possibilities. The next morning, I drove to the old bakery, its shuttered windows a stab of grief. Margaret was outside, her coat dotted with drizzle, and she hugged me like I was her own. "You've got her fire," she said, leading me inside. The air still held traces of sugar and yeast, like Evelyn's ghost lingered. We sat at a worn table, and Margaret handed me a small, locked tin. "Evelyn gave me this after her diagnosis," she said, passing me a key. "She said it's for you when Deborah turned ugly." My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a flash drive and a note in Evelyn's neat script. The note was brief, but heavy. "Sarah, this drive has a video I made for you. It's proof of why you're my heir. Deborah will fight dirty, but you're stronger. Trust Margaret." Tears stung my eyes as I clutched it. Margaret nodded. She recorded it last year, knowing Deborah couldn't be trusted. We plugged the drive into my laptop, and Evelyn's face filled the screen, thin but fierce in her hospital bed. "Sarah," she said, "I'm giving you the bakery and the recipes because you've got my heart. Hard work, love, integrity. Deborah's wasted every chance I gave her. She'll smear you. But this video, notarized by my lawyer, proves my choice was sound. Don't let her break you." I paused it, my throat tight. The knot of doubt loosened. Evelyn had planned for this, had given me her voice as armor. But hope came with a shadow. As we left the bakery, my phone buzzed. A text from Deborah. "Court's next, Sarah. You can't hide." My stomach twisted. A court suit could drag the bakery into limbo, maybe bankrupt it. The knot of panic surged. Margaret saw my face and gripped my arm. "You need legal help. Evelyn trusted Claire Thompson. Find her." I nodded, my mind racing. Deborah's threat was a sledgehammer, but Evelyn's video was a shield, notarized and undeniable. The knot of fear eased. I had a weapon now. I called Claire Thompson that evening, my voice steadier. We met at her office near the waterfront, papers stacked high. I showed her the notebook, the first video, and Margaret's drive. Claire watched the new video, her pen flying. "This is dynamite, Sarah," she said. "Evelyn's clarity and the notarization crush any coercion claim. But Deborah's harassment is serious. We need every text, every threat." I showed her Deborah's court text and the flyer footage. Claire's eyes narrowed. "This is intimidation. Keep recording, and we'll hit back if she files." The knot of overwhelm softened. Claire was my strategist, turning Evelyn's truth into a plan. But Deborah kept pushing. That night, I found a new flyer on my car. "Give back what you stole." Greg's handwriting again. My heart pounded as I saved it for Claire, the knot of danger tightening. Yet something shifted. Margaret's video, Claire's confidence, Michael's support. They were my backbone. I checked the bakery's safe records Margaret mentioned, finding a note Evelyn left. Deborah's last loan, $75,000, no repayment. Another piece of evidence, another knot of shock loosening into resolve. Deborah's war was fierce, but I wasn't her prey anymore. With Evelyn's ally in my corner, I was ready to fight, even as her next move loomed like a storm. The text from Deborah was a landmine. "Family reunion, Lake Washington cabin, 3 p.m. Settle this now." After her lies, Emily's sabotage, Lucas's threats, and those flyers, I knew it wasn't a truce. I had Evelyn's video, Margaret's notarized proof, and Claire's legal strategy, but my stomach churned as I drove to the cabin. This was my childhood haven, now a battlefield. Deborah's trap was set, but I was done running. What happened inside that room wasn't just a showdown. It was a wrecking ball, with a twist that shattered everything. Let me take you there, to the moment I faced my family and the truth exploded. I pulled into the gravel driveway, the cabin's familiar cedar walls mocking me with memories of happier times. My hands shook as I grabbed my bag, Evelyn's notebook, the USB drives, and Claire's number on speed dial. The door creaked open before I knocked, and Deborah stood there, her smile tight as a wire. "Sarah, right on time," she said, her voice syrupy. Inside, the living room was a stage. Emily and Lucas on the couch, eyes averted. Greg by the fireplace, arms crossed, and two men in sharp suits at a folding table, papers stacked high. The knot of dread tightened. This wasn't a reunion. It was a tribunal. "Sit," Deborah gestured to a lone chair facing them all. I sat, my bag on my lap, my pulse racing. One suit, Mr. Hargrove, spoke first, his tone slick. "Sarah, your family wants to resolve this estate dispute amicably. The bakery, the recipes, it's too much for you alone." I gripped my bag, keeping my voice steady. "Evelyn's will was clear. Why are we here?" Deborah leaned forward, her eyes glinting. "Because you stole it, Sarah. We're offering a fair split. Sign over the business, keep a small share." Emily chimed in, her voice sharp. "Grandma didn't mean to cut us out. You tricked her." The knot of betrayal stung, but I held firm. She wasn't tricked. She chose me. The other suit, Mr. Vance, slid a document across the table. "This transfers the bakery and recipes to your mother, with a 15% cut for you. Sign it, and we avoid court." I scanned it, my heart sinking. It stripped me of everything: leaving vague promises. The knot of pressure was crushing. Deborah's voice softened, a snake's charm. Sarah, think of Lucas's college, Emily's debts. Be family. Lucas shifted, his eyes conflicted but stayed silent. I hesitated, the guilt clawing at me. Was I tearing us apart? Then Hargrove dropped the bomb. If you don't sign, we're filing a suit claiming undue influence. Evelyn was ill, vulnerable. A judge will question your time with her. The threat hit like ice water. Court could ruin Evelyn's legacy, drag her name through the mud. The knot of fear surged, my resolution wavering. Deborah's smile widened, sensing weakness. Sign, Sarah. Let's end this. I reached for the pen, my hand trembling. When Lucas spoke, his voice small. Mom, is this right? Everyone froze. Deborah snapped. Quiet, Lucas. But his doubt cracked her facade, loosening my panic. I set the pen down. I need proof Evelyn was clear. That's when I played my card. I pulled out my laptop, my fingers steady now, and loaded Margaret's video. Evelyn's face filled the screen, her voice unwavering. I'm leaving everything to Sarah. Bakery, recipes, because she's got my values. Deborah's wasted every chance. This is notarized. My mind sound. The room went silent. Hargrove's pen frozen mid-note. Deborah's face twisted. That's fake, she shouted. I held up the notebook, flipping to her loan records. This isn't. $100,000, Mom, spent on cars, trips, not family. Emily gasped, her eyes darting to Deborah. The knot of triumph loosened. I had them. But the twist came like lightning. Emily stood, her face pale, clutching her phone. She found something, she said, her voice shaking. Mom's emails. She was planning to cut us out, Lucas. She promised us shares but signed a deal with a developer to sell the bakery. Lucas's jaw dropped. What? Emily turned to me, tears streaming. Sarah, I didn't know. I'm sorry. Deborah lunged, grabbing Emily's arm. Shut up. But Emily yanked free, standing by me. I'm done lying for you, Mom. The room erupted. Greg shouting, Hargrove packing papers. The knot of shock dissolved into clarity. Emily's defection broke Deborah's grip. I stood, my voice calm. This is over. Evelyn's wishes stand. I grabbed my bag, Emily beside me, Lucas frozen, but watching. Deborah's scream followed us out. You'll regret this! But as we stepped into the rain, Claire's car pulling up as planned, the knot of fear was gone. Emily's choice, Evelyn's video, they were my victory. The trap had backfired, but Deborah's final glare promised more. I wasn't free yet, but I was no longer alone. Walking out of that cabin with Emily by my side, Evelyn's video still ringing in my ears, I felt the weight of Deborah's trap lift. But the fight wasn't over. Her scream, "You'll regret this," echoed like a warning. I had the bakery, the recipes, and now a sister who'd seen the truth. But rebuilding meant more than winning. It meant honoring Evelyn's legacy while healing the scars my family left. Those months were a blur of hard choices and quiet victories, each one a step towards something new. Let me take you through it, to the moment I found my purpose. Deborah didn't stop. She filed a lawsuit claiming coercion, but Claire shredded it with Evelyn's notarized video and notebook. The judge dismissed it, ordering Deborah to pay court costs. The knot of fear tightened. She'd come harder now, but Claire's calm voice loosened it. She's out of moves, Sarah. I focused on the bakery, hiring Emily as a manager to rebuild trust. She dove in, her guilt fueling her work, but Deborah's calls kept coming, begging, then threatening. The knot of guilt stung. Could I help her without losing myself? I set up a small trust for her, tightly controlled, honoring Evelyn's love, not her greed. The recipes were my North Star. I licensed them to a national chain, the profits pouring into Evelyn's bakes. We opened a green bakery in Seattle, eco-friendly and modern, drawing crowds. The knot of doubt, could I live up to Evelyn, eased as customers raved. Lucas reached out, apologetic, asking to visit. I hesitated, the knot of betrayal still raw, but invited him to the opening. He came, eyes wide, and we talked, a fragile bridge forming. Deborah showed up too, uninvited, her face softened by time. "I'm proud," she whispered, but left quickly. The knot of hope flickered. Maybe healing was possible. I started a scholarship in Evelyn's name, funding young bakers, her passion living on. Each step rebuilt what Deborah tried to break. But her shadow lingered, a reminder to stay vigilant. With Emily's loyalty and Evelyn's vision, I wasn't just surviving, I was building a legacy that outlasts us all. Standing in the new Evelyn's bakes, the scent of fresh pastries in the air, I finally felt it. Peace. Deborah's war, Emily's betrayal, Lucas's threats, that cabin ambush, they tested me, broke me, but they also showed me who I am. Evelyn's legacy wasn't just her bakery or those recipes. It was the strength she saw in me, the value she taught me to hold tight. This fight wasn't about money. It was about what we build with what we're given. But even now, with the lawsuit behind me and Emily back by my side, I know healing's a long road. Deborah's still out there, her silence a knot of uncertainty. Will she try again? I don't know, but I'm ready, and that's what matters. Let me share what I've learned and why I'm asking you to join me in this story. Looking back, I see it clear. True wealth isn't what you own, it's what you create. Evelyn taught me that every loaf, every life takes work, love, and time. Deborah wanted the bakery to spend it. I fought to grow it, to honor the hands that needed its first dough. That choice cost me sleepless nights, a fractured family, but it gave me purpose. The knot of loss still aches. I miss the mom I thought I had, but opening that green bakery, seeing Lucas smile at the grand opening, watching Emily find her place, it loosened that pain, showing me family can mend, even if it's messy. Here's the truth I carry. Standing up doesn't mean shutting out. I set boundaries with Deborah, but left a door cracked for hope. That's the American way, fighting for what's right while holding space for second chances. What about you? Have you faced a family fight over money or trust? How did you find your ground? Drop your story in the comments. I read every one, and it builds this community. The knot of sharing can feel scary, but it frees you. Trust me. If this journey hit home, hit that like button. It's a nod that we're in this together. Subscribe and tap the bell so you don't miss the next story. Evelyn's lesson lives in all of us. Your legacy isn't what you take, it's what you leave behind. Let's keep building ours, one choice at a time.